My next guest is Perry Armstrong. He wears many hats in the town of Randolph. His family's been here, he tells me, since the mid-1800s, and that's a very common thing in Vermont, where folks have a wide variety of life experiences, and they contribute from many angles to their communities. And Perry's a member of the board, of the select board here in Randolph, relatively new member, I think. He's involved in some local development projects, and just wanted to hear from somebody with that range of perspectives here. Good morning, Perry Armstrong.
Morning, Dave. Thanks you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining the program. So tell me, one of the things that Pat Moulton just alluded to in our last conversation with the head of Vermont Tech was that folks come in here to visit to Randolph, and I think, if you have a college like Vermont Tech, you're going to have, I didn't ask her this directly, but I'm sure there's some kind of a parents' weekend that happens occasionally there, and or folks just coming to visit the school because they're thinking about a kid going to Vermont Tech, and yet when they're looking for a place to stay in Randolph, a hotel or a bed and breakfast or something, things are a little lacking here, and I think you have an idea for trying to address that.
Yeah, well, what we're working on now is a few years back, and we lost what was the Three Stallion Inn as the lodging facility. That's now been turned over to the Brunswick School. So what's happened here is we pretty much have very little lodging. We have a few B&Bs, but the major lodging component is a big piece of the problem with what's going on here for a lot of businesses in the community. VTC could use that facility. So about a year and a half ago, I got together with a group of business people in the community and formed a little business group, and we started talking about some of the issues we thought that were important, and lodging keeps on coming to the top. So a couple of my partners and I, from people that I've been associated with for years, decided that we needed to work on fixing this problem. And so there's been a lot of controversy with lodging at Exit 4, and of course some people know about that situation. And so Vermont Preservation Trust, along with some other people, put together a campaign, and they raised money to put that property into preservation. Well, the other side of the highway, the southeast quadrant of Exit 4, has been available for purchase for a while, and so I've been trying to buy that over the years, and so we were successful in purchasing it. And so last fall, we started in on a feasibility study for a hotel, and I funded that project, and we now have that in our hands. And so we're recently here moving forward. We've recently hired a consultant to work with us on the process, and we've hired an engineering firm to work on the civil end of things, and we're looking at signing a franchise agreement in the next few weeks to work with one of the major hotel companies, because we on the feasibility study said we weren't able to probably do this as a boutique, so we needed the help of the franchise groups. So you need to be able to book rooms, and they have the ability to get it done. So we're working on that project right now, and we hope that along with that, this will bring other activity to the community. We think that there's room for the hotel. We think there's room for Airbnbs and those kind of things. So that's one of my initiatives.
Wow, and so you've got your permits in hand and all?
No, we're working on that. That's where we're at right now. We've just recently hired the civil engineer and working with a permit specialist to try to move this process forward. And we're hoping that it'll be well received. We're trying to stay out of the view sheds and things like that have been controversial in the past. So we think we've got a good location, and we think we've got a good plan. So.
And are you running into any local opposition? Or are people concerned about it? Because I know there was a previous big development project proposed for that area up around Exit 4 on Interstate 89, and that ran into significant opposition from some of the green groups and so on. And what's the status on that front?
Well, that's the parcel that was owned by the Samuses for years, and Sam had proposed a fairly large development there. My personal opinion is he overdid it. Should have been a little bit scaled back, but anyways, I think that led to the opposition around the project, because it is a pretty scenic area up there, and
it's beautiful.
It used to be the home of the whale's tails, and now that property's gone under preservation, but still we need to solve this problem of lodging, and we just don't feel that there's any available space other than where we're looking at right now to be able to locate a hotel.
What are some of the other projects you've got? I know you were telling me you've got a few different, your fingers in a few different pots around town here.
Yeah, I own a Rain or Shine tent company, which is something that kind of keeps me pretty busy. So we
This is a business that actually, if you're going to have a wedding or something, you want to hire a tent for rent.
correct.
They
Yes.
call you up.
Yeah, more than tents. We do a lot of stuff. We're actually probably one of the larger event companies in the state, and we provide a lot of services to all over the state. We employ about 30 people during the summer, and so that's my big project.
Yep.
But I do have my hands in a couple other things. Recently, there was a parcel of land that used to be what they used to call Fars Hill, which was, I believe, they tell me it was Vermont's second oldest rope tow. It was put in like 1936. So this parcel came available here just recently, and so I'm now in the process of actively trying to turn that property back into rope tow. And so
a little ski area.
A little ski area.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
there's a lot of people in the area. You know, I used to ski. I didn't ski at Fars Hill because it closed in '66. But Fars Hill, from Fars Hill, we had something called Pinnacle Skiways, and that was open for about 10 years. And so I learned to ski there. And so recently, you know, it's kind of occurred to me because now I've got grandchildren, and so to try to teach them to ski. It's a pretty costly project to be able to take your children, you know, for local residents here. It doesn't seem there's an opportunity. So I've been looking at models around the state, and Brownsville just recently put their ski hill back online with a rope tow, and I know that Living Memorial Park in Brattleboro has done something similar. So my goal here is to turn this into a community ski hill with a tubing park, and recently, yesterday, got some of my sign-offs I needed from a local standpoint for my Minor Act 250 permit. We've got a tremendous amount of support. I've got a few individuals that have offered to put up some money to help me pay for the lifts and buy some of the equipment needed. So,
Do you ever talk to folks at Killington or Stowe or the big ski areas about these projects? Because I would think they would love it. They would see this as folks who are going to learn to ski on these little local hills after school or something, and then later on, assuming they go on into the workforce and they're successful enough to afford lift tickets, that they will be the customer base in the future for one of the Sugar Bush or one of the majors.
well, we think so. I haven't directly had any conversations with the people at Killington Pico yet, but I do have. There's some local people here that work at Sugar Bush, and they've expressed some tremendous amount of interest. There's one gal here who runs the school program at Sugar Bush, and she's offered to volunteer some of her time here to put programs together for this region, so that maybe the local communities can have a ski program for their schools.
Yep.
And another gentleman works in the rental shop over there, and so at some point, when my tent business slows down a little bit. My intention is to reach out to some of those agencies. I know that I think it was Mount Snow that provided Living Memorial Park with some equipment to put that in place. So I'm pretty sure we'll be well received here, because as you're right, if the kids can learn, and the families can learn to ski here, I think that they'll move on to the bigger areas for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just imagine that there's some terrific potential synergy there between the smalls and the small areas and the big areas.
Yeah, we think there is.
And so that's well, it sounds like you have a lot going on, Perry Armstrong, and now you're on the select board. How long have you been on the select board now?
I was voted in March.
Oh, okay,
so about 7 months.
You're new.
Yeah, I'm new. Yeah.
And what's your overall sense? I mean, Randolph, obviously, we talked about the fires that happened in town years ago, and that there's been some aspects of feeling like there's a bumpy road, but coming along, do you think are you hopeful about the future?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a bumpy road. I mean, I got on the planning commission 10 years ago because I felt we needed to, try to make some changes, and starting with the town plan, and so we've been trying to, create some things that we felt would help the community, and so I got a little frustrated. Things didn't seem to be going as fast as I like them. I'm a kind of a driven by, let's get something done kind of person here.
Yep.
So anyways, there's things that are coming down the pipeline. As Pat mentioned, LED's building a new facility here. We've got a lot of help from, the state of Vermont with that process. Green Mountain Economic Development was involved in it. And so, that we feel is a hopefully going to be a turning point. We're going to be able to track some other businesses this afternoon. I actually have a meeting lined up with a potential buyer who's doing a walkthrough of the former Goldfinger facility here that actually went under back in the middle of the winter. And so we're trying to kickstart some of this kind of stuff. We've got some empty storefronts downtown where people are we're brainstorming to try to figure out what to do with those facilities. And this is kind of where this R3 initiative came from. last year, probably in November, we were approached, my little business committee was approached about, submitting an application to the state agency, or I think it's Rural Development.
Vermont Council on Rural
Vermont
Development.
Council on Rural Development, right. And so we submitted the application, they had an interview process, and they picked us, and so we got together a core group of people here, and so this is where this R3 came from.
Yeah, I'm going to be actually joining the Vermont Council on Rural Development. They're having a conference down in Castleton University. I believe it's October 1st, so really just in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm very fascinated to go down there and hear some of their conversations about what they've been doing in the local communities around Vermont to keep the downtowns vibrant and the economies going. And I'm eager to learn more about that. So that'll be fun.
A lot of us feel, I think, that this probably was a really good opportunity.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that are energized by this. There was a community dinner back in the spring. A lot of attendance. A lot of people are concerned about the community, and so they've got a great program. They're great facilitators. They were able to bring all those ideas to the top. I think at one point there was like 50 different things floating around, and John Copans and Paul Costello did a tremendous job of herding the cats, so to speak.
Yep.
And so now I think we have a focus, and then you just talked with Pat, and she's the chair of the groups, and I'm very happy with the progress we're making, and I see a lot of good stuff coming out of this in the future.
All right. Well, Perry Armstrong, member of the Board of Selectmen here since March, and a very active community member. I can hear and tell in many other respects. So I really appreciate you stopping by this morning and sharing some of your stories with us.